So in this video, we're going to be overviewing our marketing template and how you configure it from start to finish. There are 5 main steps to using this template and building it into your own app. The first one is going to be how to add the template to your account. We will then show you how to brand it. We will then show you how to make your configurations in Studio Edit mode, and then segue into our admin section of the app and how you manage that content from within Studio Preview mode or the live app. And then the last step of this is going to be our publish section. So right now we are going to kick off into adding the template to your account and showing you quickly how to brand it. We are going to be going over how to configure our marketing template and how you can add it to your own account and customize it with your information. The first thing you'll want to make sure that you're logged into your Studio account with your credentials, and we'll use this Create App button to select our marketing template and add it to our account. So you'll see here I have marketing template, and I'm going to click this Use Template button. So here I can name my template, so I'm going to name this Marketing 2022 and start editing the template. So now you'll see if you click back into your Studio console that you have this new template here. If you want to edit it, all we do is click into it and begin editing. So again, just to mention that there are 2 different modes. We have our edit mode, which we will be making all of our changes to the app, and then our preview mode where we can see what these changes look like. So to start with, I am going to want to add some users to this template to allow them to collaborate with me. What I will do is go and press this invite button and invite people with their email addresses. You also have the option to give them specific controls, so they have the option to preview only, edit, or preview and publish. Once we have set that, we will press our invite button, and they will now be able to access the app through their own Studio account. We also can at any time go in and see who has specific rights to this app and delete them if we need to. So one of the first things that we always suggest when you've added a new template to your account is to set your theme appearance. These are going to be appearances that are found throughout the app as a whole on each screen and will apply to the settings of each component. So for here, we can see our quick settings that we want to use. These are going to be our colors. So our paragraph text, let's say we're going to change this color here. Our highlight color, and then our secondary color here. So we've gone ahead and changed those, and you can see that they've already gone ahead and changed in some of the text on this main screen. Also, if we want to change the font, we can click down in here and select a new font, and this will apply to the fonts around the template. You can also go through and change any of the other appearance settings in here. So if we wanted to go through and change our heading 2, heading 3, you can see everything's applied from the quick settings, but you can go in and make some changes there if you want to. And you can also dive down into each of the specific components and change the settings from this theme appearance settings. The third step of creating your marketing template into an app of your own is going to be making your configurations in Studio Edit mode. So we quickly just want to point out that there's a difference between configuring in the admin section of the app and in the Studio Editor. So the admin section, which we will review later, can be used to edit anything that sits in one of our data sources. The Studio Edit mode, which we will be reviewing now, will be used to make one-off configuration changes to your app, editing your appearance setting, editing some of our interactive tools, as well as our fonts and styles across the app. We also will be going over editing the main menu for you, and like I also said, we will be highlighting some of the components that cannot be edited through admin mode, such as our analyze content, map, decision tree, and quiz. We will now move back into our marketing template and take a look at some of the agenda points we just reviewed. I'm first going to start with editing our menu. So we again are in our edit mode here in Studio. So you'll see here we have two different types of menus. This is where we configure all of our screens that sit under our screens and make them visible and usable to our users. So you'll see here I have these menus broken up into 3 different sections. If I click into them, you'll see that I have, for instance, my browse content. The action when I click on it is displaying me to another screen. That screen is going to be browse content list world. So really what is important to point out here is if we're trying to add any new screens to our app, we'll want to make sure that we configure it to one of our menus that are set up in order to send the user to that page. If there's anything that we don't want to use, we suggest leaving the screens in case you want to use them later, but simply removing them from your menu item so you won't be able to give the users access to see them. Also, to point out, we have our hamburger menu here. So like this, we have our list of actions that our users can take. Again, if I click into this, you'll see it is displaying another screen and it's taking me to my notification screen. So here, if there's anything sitting in this hamburger menu that we don't want the users to use, say we're going to get rid of surveys for this purpose, all you'll simply do is delete this. Our survey screen still exists here as one of our screens, but there isn't a way for the user to navigate to it, so it doesn't exist to the user. We will now move into some of our interactive features in our marketing template and show you how to configure those through our edit mode. We will go ahead and start with our benchmarking component. So you'll see each of our screens have these screen instructions that tell you exactly how to set them up. We also have the full configuration articles that will assist you in putting these together. Again, clicking on this blue help button will help you get there. But these instruction boxes should give you a bit of an overview of what we are doing. One important thing to point out about most of our interactive features that I'm going to be going over quickly, including the benchmark, is the importance of the screen structure. So you'll see here in the instruction box of all of these types of components, you'll see an example screen structure. This is telling you the order that our components must go in order for it to work correctly. So I will show you if I take one of our helper components and add it onto the screen in the wrong place, I will get this error message saying incorrect component placement. So again, please pay attention to the screen ordering and make sure that we're keeping that in mind when we're building this component. So for a benchmark, you'll see if I click into this, these are all of the settings sitting within this benchmark. So this is my first screen. I have my title here. If I want to make edits to this, I'm just going to simply type in my new title. And am I enabling drag and drop? So this is going to allow me to pull images onto the screen, to pull videos, anything else, any additional text boxes. If my enable drag and drop is set, I'm going to be able to pull these types of things onto my screen. So I will test this quickly for you. So I have brought this text box over. Set up bench, and I can make that text whatever I want it to be. Again, an image is already on this. If I want to change it, I can just click into my image manager and you'll see where my image is changed there. So that is going to be our first title screen of our benchmark. If I scroll down into the components, you'll see we have the full benchmark, which is the title that we just had on our screen. So we want to make sure that our benchmark sits there. We have our questions, which we will go through shortly, our answers, and our results. So you'll see here I have a question box. If I want to add any additional questions, what I will do is drop those onto the screen and fill out the question. Going to delete this since we already have it set up. One thing to point out is you want to make sure that you follow the specific order that is written out in our example. So you'll always want to have a question followed by an answer, followed by another question, followed by an answer, and continue in that order. When you're finished with all your questions and answers, then you're going to want to make sure that you have our results component to end the benchmark. So I will go into our question. So here you will see this nicely laid out where you just really need to copy and paste or drop your content into it. So what is our question? How many countries have we traveled to? Again, the option to enable drag and drop if you want to have some more interactive features. So say an image or a chart or some more text, we can say yes and drag that onto our screen. For this purposes, we're going to leave it as no. And then we can add our answers. So you'll see we already have some answers populated here. If we want to delete them, we just use the little delete button. If we want to add an answer, we'll click into it and we'll put the answer here. If I now save this, you'll see my new answer has dropped onto the screen for the user to select. So again, like we said, after every question, there should be an answer. So I'm going to figure my answer component. I click into it. I have the title. So how many countries have you visited versus other users? So that's just going to be the title of your result screen. A description. So I have a little bit of a overview on what my question was specifically answering. This again is optional, you don't have to have it, but sometimes it's nice to provide a little bit of an explanation. So that's going to be my answer slide. What I also have on my answer slide is a chart configuring the answer to my questions. You'll always want to make sure that you select a data source when you're setting this up of where you want your answers to be saved. So for this, I have my marketing benchmark data source. It will populate one for you if you don't have one previously selected, but you can go ahead and select that there and change it if you want to. Choose how you want your answers to be plotted. So you can plot your data as it is or summarize the data. So I have selected a bit of a summary. Select the columns of the data source. So if I click into this data source, I'm seeing the results here of all the questions that have been answered. How many countries have you visited versus others is this specific question here. So I want to make sure that I'm showing the results for this column. So this question is asking you, what column are we configuring here? I am configuring how many countries have I visited versus others. Enabling the data legend. So you see we have the data legend here at the bottom. This can be enabled or not. And enabling the data values, showing total numbers of options, automatically refreshing data every 5 seconds. These are just giving you some options on how we want our data to be shown. Our chart name, we want to make sure that this is always matching the chart name that we have set in our question. So how many countries have you traveled to was the name of this benchmark. I want to always make sure that my chart is matching that name there. So I will go ahead and save and close. And our last step to this, you'll see I have a couple other questions and answers in here that I have configured previously. And the last thing I want to do is configure our results. So all of our interactive components that sit within these marketing template have the option to configure your results that all work in a similar function. So we have the name of our benchmark here. We have any specific messages that you'd like to show your users. So let's edit this and say congrats. You've completed your benchmark. So we can put whatever text we want there. Again, the option to enable drag and drop, where we would be pulling specific components onto the screen, such as a video, such as an image, such as text. We're selecting where we want our benchmark results to be saved. So for here, we're saving our results in our general save results data source. You can change this if you want it to be a data source. When this template is copied into your account, it will always pre-populate this save results example data source. So you will have this as a part of the template when you copy it into your account. So this is where I am now enabling different functionality of our results screen. So our email template is allowing the users to email the results of the benchmark or component that they have just completed and emailing them to a specific user. So I have pre-configured this to say I want to share my results. I'm using some variables of the title. I'm also using the variables of the app name and then showing my results. So what this will do is allow the user to open an email with this already pre-populated and send to the user of their choice. I am also going to enable request assistance. So this is after I've taken my benchmark and completed it. Do I need any help? Do I need to ask any additional questions? Do I need to interact with the app or its users in any other way? So this is where I would enable requesting assistance and putting my company's support email address or my contact email address. This will then populate again an email to the user that is designated here and give them the information of the benchmark that was completed and enabling them to reach back out to them to help support them. I also can enable this to take me to a directory page. So this is kind of how we engage users in the full app. So after they have taken this benchmark, they may want to go through the app and see, who they can contact and find out more information again. So I will select here my expert directory. You can really send them to any page here, but here we are wanting to, again, facilitate this interaction. So we're going to be selecting our expert directory and then enabling them to share results with each other. So this will give you your general share by email, share URL, post through Twitter, etc. If I save this and then test my benchmark that I have just put together, you'll see all my questions are nicely laid out with my different charts that I have picked. And my benchmark is complete. I will see the option to email, request assistance, contact an expert, and share. If any of these are not enabled during the process, the buttons will disappear and the users will not have the option. So again, all 4 of these can be turned on and off, and we have the option to configure them in any way that you wish. So I will now go over our quiz and assessment tool. Again, this works in a very similar way as our benchmark, where you will be dropping and dragging questions and results onto a screen. Again, all the instructions are up here in this yellow text box. Our screen structure is very important, so making sure we're following a similar structure where we have questions followed by questions, and when the questions have finished, we have the results at the end. So you'll see here I have a couple questions already inside of my assessment. I'm going to add an additional one just to show you how it works. So I drop this question onto my screen and I will put in the title of it. What is the capital? I'm going to add my answers. If this is the correct answer, we obviously will select yes. This is not, so I will not. And if you want to add any additional information after the question is asked, that's where you can drop the text in this text box below. I'm going to go ahead and drop a second answer in here. So if I click in here, I'm going to put my answer. This is the correct answer, so I will select yes. And I will go ahead and close that. You'll see you have the option to delete, add new ones, or also change the order that these questions and answers, the questions are shown to the user, so you can drop that around. We always want to make sure we're saving. You'll see that my new question has been added here to the beginning of this quiz. So I have my 4 questions and I then have my results that I want to configure. So if I click into our results, you'll see I have the assessment name. So this again is just going to be the title that is shown at the end of the quiz on the screen. So I have my country knowledge. And this is where I'm going to be able to configure what my results screen is showing. So you'll see all the variables are typed out here of things that you may want to use. If you want to add anything else, just make sure you're putting them in the same format. Any text can just be written out in normal text. So I have, you've completed your assessment. Your score is the percentage of answers that they've got correct. So this is where this variable is put here. It's telling the user you have X amount correct and X amount incorrect of a total. The status of the quiz, and also the pass mark. So again, adding the variables in wherever we want them to. And if we want to add some additional text, we'll just type that in. Thank you for taking the quiz. And that will all show on our results screen here. We have the option to show the response for each question in the results. So this is going to show every single answer that was asked and the questions that were answered. We can enable or not enable this. We will leave it enabled for this. Our pass mark, so again, where we set our pass mark here for the user to see what there is. We also have the option to set it to whatever you want it to be. So 50%, you can make it 75%, you can make it 10%. This is where we'd set that. Again, giving you the option to save the results in a specific data source. We again are using our save results, which will always be populated for you, but you can change it if you want to by clicking the change button. And then going through again what we want the user to see once they've completed the quiz. So in email templates, I am going to unenable this just to show you how it works when it's unenabled. Request support. So I want to request support to this email address. I'm going to leave that. I don't want to see the expert directory, but I do want to enable the users to share this quiz with others. So if I go ahead and save all this, we have our quiz now configured. If I go into preview mode, you will see that I'm able to answer my new question. Go ahead and answer these, and everything I have answered is displayed out for me. So you'll see my score, my percentage. I got 1 out of 3 correct, and the total of 4. I failed because I didn't pass the pass mark that we set, and again the additional text. I also have configured the request assistant, so you'll see that button there, and the share button. Those are the two I selected to allow the users to have access to, and the other 2 buttons are now not appearing on this. So this is how we set up our quiz and assessment. I now will take you to our decision tree, which is a bit more complex, but again works in a very similar way to the other benchmark and quiz components that we've already set up. So just as a reminder, our instructions sit in this yellow box at the top of the screen in edit mode. You can see a couple of steps to follow, as well as our screen structure, which is particularly important. What we always want to make sure is that we're following this sort of sample structure. So here you'll see we have our questions followed by our results. The goal here is to make sure that every possible outcome to the questions that we have listed here have a result linked to them. If we scroll down into the components, you'll see we have our helpers that sit right here. So again, what we want to make sure is that we have a decision tree always sitting on the page first, as we do here, and then dragging and dropping the questions and relatable results or outcomes to them once we have our initial decision tree sitting on the page. So if I click into my decision tree, this is where I have enabled my drag and drop and have a nice little image there. I click into it and I have my title of my quiz, and I also have the option to save my results to a specific data source. We are using the save results one again, have the option to change by pressing the change button. If I click into my questions, it works in a very similar manner where you are typing in the question content. You are then going to go ahead and populate your answers. So the answers work a bit different than the quiz answers, where when I click into this, I'm directing the user to the next question. Since this is a decision tree, it's a web of answers and decisions. So what we want to do is make sure that we're configuring each answer to a specific result. So for here, my answer to this question is I'm ready. If the user answers this, what do we have them do? We are taking them to the next question, which is, do you have a valid passport? If our answer is no, we then want to take the user to the results screen of do not travel. So my suggestion here is that you drop all of your questions and answers. So I will now go over our quiz and assessment tool. Again, this works in a very similar way as our benchmark, where you will be dropping and dragging questions and results onto a screen. Again, all the instructions are up here in this yellow text box. Our screen structure is very important, so making sure we're following a similar structure where we have questions followed by questions, and when the questions have finished, we have the results at the end. So you'll see here I have a couple questions already inside of my assessment. I'm going to add an additional one just to show you how it works. So I drop this question onto my screen and I will put in the title of it. What is the capital? I'm going to add my answers. Is that if this is the correct answer, we obviously will select yes. This is not, so I will not. And if you want to add any additional information after the question is asked, that's where you can drop the text in this text box below. I'm going to go ahead and drop a second answer in here. So if I click in here, I'm going to put my answer. This is the correct answer, so I will select yes. And I will go ahead and close that. You'll see you have the option to delete, add new ones, or also change the order that these questions and answers, the questions are shown to the user, so you can drop that around. We always want to make sure we're saving, and you'll see that my new question now has been added to the end of this quiz. You'll see that my new question has been added here to the beginning of this quiz. So I have my 4 questions and I then have my results that I want to configure. So if I click into our results, you'll see I have the assessment name. So this again is just going to be the title that is shown at the end of the quiz on the screen. So I have my country knowledge. And this is where I'm going to be able to configure what my results screen is showing. So you'll see all the variables are typed out here of things that you may want to use. If you want to add anything else, just make sure you're putting them in the same format. Any text can just be written out in normal text. So I have, you've completed your assessment. Your score is the percentage of answers that they got correct. So this is where this variable is put here. It's telling the user you have X amount correct and X amount incorrect of a total. The status of the quiz, and also the pass mark. So again, adding the variables in wherever we want them to. And if we want to add some additional text, we'll just type that in. Thank you for taking the quiz. And that will all show on our results screen here. So we have the option to show the response for each question in the results. So this is going to show every single answer that was asked and the questions that were answered. We can enable or not enable this. We will leave it enabled for this. Our pass mark, so again, where we set our pass mark here for the user to see what there is. We also have the option to set it to whatever you want it to be. So 50%, you can make it 75%, you can make it 10%. This is where we'd set that. Again, giving you the option to save the results in a specific data source. We again are using our save results, which will always be populated for you, but you can change it if you want to by clicking the change button. And then going through again what we want the user to see once they've completed the quiz. So in email templates, I am going to unenable this just to show you how it works when it's unenabled. Request support. So I want to request support to this email address. I'm going to leave that. I don't want to see the expert directory, but I do want to enable the users to share this quiz with others. So if I go ahead and save all this, we have our quiz now configured. If I go into preview mode, you will see that I'm able to answer my new question. go ahead and answer these, and everything I have answered is displayed out for me. So you'll see my score, my percentage. I got 1 out of 3 correct, and the total of 4. I failed because I didn't pass the pass mark that we set, and again the additional text. I also have configured the request assistant, so you'll see that button there, and the share button. Those are the two I selected to allow the users to have access to, and the other 2 buttons are now not appearing on this. So this is how we set up our quiz and assessment. I now will take you to our decision tree, which is a bit more complex, but again works in a very similar way to the other benchmark and quizmark components that we've already set up. So just a repeat again, your instructions will always be sitting in this yellow box. We have our screen structure here where, different from the others, we're going to want to make sure we have multiple result screens that match all of our question screens. So for every question screen, there needs to be a result screen. So again, sliding down into the bottom of the components, we have our questions, results, and our decision tree. So you'll always want to make sure that there is a decision tree sitting on the page, followed by a quiz, followed by a question, and then followed by a matching result for that question. So if I click into my decision tree, this is where I have enabled my drag and drop and have a nice little image there. I click into it and I have my title of my quiz, and I also have the option to save my results to a specific data source. We are using the save results one again, have the option to change by pressing the change button. If I click into my questions, it works in a very similar manner where you are typing in the question content. You are then going to go ahead and populate your answers. So the answers work a bit different than the quiz answers, where when I click into this, I'm directing the user to the next question. Since this is a decision tree, it's a web of answers and decisions. So what we want to do is make sure that we're configuring each answer to a specific result. So for here, my answer to this question is I'm ready. If the user answers this, what do we have them do? We are taking them to the next question, which is, do you have a valid passport? If our answer is no, we then want to take the user to the result screen of do not travel. So my suggestion here is that you drop all of your questions and answers onto the screen prior to setting this up. This way, when we go into configure our decision and the result of that decision, you already have them as a drop down here for the user to go into. So we generally suggest that you have the layout of your decision tree preset before you come and use this tool. So if I save and close that, you'll see I have my other 2 answers where I have gone and configured where they are going to be resulting in depending on the answer. I also have each of my result screens. So again, for every question, you want to match that with a result. So my 3 results are travel, do not travel, and travel within the country. So if I click into any of these slides, they're going to look exactly like our other result screens, where you have the option to enable to show a start again button if you want the user to start over, show the response from each question, and enabling the user again to email results, request assistance, contact an expert, and share the details. So I want to make sure I have my layout completed. Once I do and have it all ready to go, I will go into my preview mode where I can go through and test. So I'm going to answer my questions. I answered yes, so it's taking me to the next question. If I answer yes, it's going to take me to another question again. If I click no, you'll see I'm now taken to the result screen of that. So I can see all the questions that I previously answered. I can see my options for emailing, requesting assistance, contacting an expert, and sharing. And then I have the option to start over at the beginning of the decision tree. So once all of your answers are populated, we always suggest that you go into our preview mode and test to make sure that everything is configured and working as it should. I will now quickly go over with you our list and map and analyze content features. These three are kind of linked together and we'll show you how those work. So if I click into first our browse content map, you'll see here that we have the options to configure a map within our app. So you'll see here instructions for Google. You will need a Google API key, and there's information here for setting those up. But once you have this API key, you are able to drop it in this box and it will connect to Google and pull through map details for you. Once we've selected our specific API key, we then have the option to choose the map we would like to see. So for this use case, I am going to use the map of the US and configure our countries. What country do we want to see here? Again, we're choosing the United States of America. That is the map we're going to see. So we have the type of map being a country and the actual country being the US. Do we want to show regions? So this is if our map is broken up into regions. So for instance, if we chose continents, we would be able to break them up by regions being the countries. So you have the option to add certain layers to categorize your map. We want to make sure that we previously have set up any data relating to this. So if I click into this data source, you'll see here we have our reference content. If I click into this, you'll see I have pre-populated my states and specific information to each of those states. So we can see birth rate, death rate, population, and different types of information populated in here that we would want to display to our user. So again, please make sure that you have this configured and ready before we use this actual component. So I've chosen my correct data source, the region I want to highlight. So what do I want to highlight here? I'm going to highlight my state specifically. What do I want to show on my map once it's configured? I want to show the population. So I have selected population. You can see here I have all the column headings that are in that previous data source we viewed. So you have the option to display this information in a specific formatting. So here I'm going to select population. We then want to say list from data source screen and configure that. So this is saying when I'm in my map and I have the option to browse and see the information in a list setting, what screen is that list? So you'll see here on the side I have my browse content list US screen. So I'm going to make sure I select that correct one there. And this is going to configure those two screens. I also have the option to select the colors, so you can brand this to your specific brand guidelines, keep it in a green, yellow, red format, or make any changes you want to. So this is just a general color picker where we can pick our color for our map. If I save this again, similar to our embed component, you will not be able to see it until you enter into preview mode. So if I now go into preview mode, you will see I have my map nicely laid out here. If I hover over, I will see the population and the state name that I had previously configured, and I can see the colors that I have set for high, medium, and low. If I click on our browse by list, it takes us to our list of states. Again, this is all the information that was sitting in that data source. And if I click into it, I can see all of our information nicely laid out in a list view. I can also use our bookmarking tool to bookmark anything, the plus button to add different states. If I wanted to add an additional state here, I would click on our plus button. Logged in as an admin, of course, I would be able to fill out and populate this new state information, and it would show on my list here. So that's how our list and map are connected, and I will now show you how this relates to our analyze content. So if I go back into preview mode, you will see I'm now on the analyze content component. If I click into my main component, you see I again have the option to select the data source. So this is a similar data source that we previously had in the map and list steps, where it's already pre-populated with the country information. So we see all the country names, their region, their related flag images, and a bunch of other information. So again, we do advise that you have this information previously populated in your data source before you set up your analyze content. So here I'm going to select my main topic. So I am going to select my main topic being the country. So this is going to be step 1, a main topic that I'm going to compare across different use cases. If there's any image related to your country, you can select it here. So my flag column holds my image. If I want to add any other content or text onto the screen, I can do it by using this text box. And again, enabling grouping to allow my topics to be grouped by region. If I go down to step 2 here, I'm going to be selecting my subcategories. So this is the data users can select to review for each main topic of what they are comparing. So I'm going to be comparing these subtopics of flag, population, history, and GDP for each of my countries that I had set it as my main topic. So when I click into subtopic, you'll see I have the option to delete any if I don't want them, to add if I want to add a new one. When I click in, I will put the name of my subtopic. I will choose this from my already populated data source, so you will see all the column names here. So let's go ahead and select birth rate, and then select what type of subcategory it is. So is it an image? Is it a single line of text? Or is it a bunch of text that needs to be shown in an accordion? So for this, I believe our birth rate is just a single line of text. So I will select that and go ahead and move to my next stage. Again, if there's any additional text that you would like to add as a description on that screen, you can go ahead and add that here. You'll see I have select content, select the content you'd like to compare, and this is what's printed out on my second slide there. If I go down to my step 3, this again is going to be us configuring our results. Works the same way that all of our results we have previously configured to. So enabling to share with other users, enabling to request assistance through a certain email, enabling you to save results, enabling you to send a specific email, and to link to our expert directory. So I'm going to unenable a couple of these just so we can see how it works, and go ahead and press save and close. So now if I go into preview mode, you will see that I have my countries here. So I'm going to go ahead and select all. Is going to allow us to select all within that region. So this is where we were referring to selecting and breaking things up by region. The regions would allow us to have these accordions. So we would show all the countries that fall under this specific continent. So I'm going to go ahead and select a few of these for each of them. I'm going to press next. You'll see I am going to pick a few of my subtopics to compare. I'm just going to press view results. So you'll see here I now have the countries I selected nicely laid out. Again, anything that has a larger piece of information falls under accordions, where everything else is just listed out in a single line of text. I have the option to share it with users, to request assistance, and to start over. You'll notice I am viewing this on a web view. Obviously, with more content, it's a nicer display to view on web, but you do have the option to see it on our general phone view as well. Another interactive tool that we have within our marketing template is our Embed component. The Embed component enables you to add an iframe to your app without the use of HTML. So you have the option to embed an HTML page, a PDF, a website, videos from YouTube or Vimeo. And these all can be done by clicking into the settings and choosing what specific embed tool we would like to use. So we have the option for an iframe, where here I just have the URL of the YouTube link. And I also have the option to embed specific code iframes. So you'll see here I have the specific code of this YouTube video. Go ahead and save my results. You'll see here in edit mode that we do not get a preview of what we have embedded. What you'll need to do is click on this preview button, and you'll see now that I have the video sitting on this page for review. If we want to style the size or formatting of this embedded content, what we will want to do is use the container that it sits in. So our embed component, and we have a couple bits of text there, all sit in this container. So if I want to change the formatting, the size of this, what I will do is click into my container settings and use the width and height, margin and padding here to style that specific to my screen use. We will now move into step 4 of updating the marketing template with your content. This step is using the admin section to manage your content. As we've pointed out before, edits can be done in our studio edit mode, which we just discussed. We're now going to show you how we can make content updates through our admin section. So our admin section can be used in our studio preview mode by clicking into the preview section, or in a live app. We will show you how to set up different users, so our general users versus our admin users that will have access to this section, and also how we use different forms to populate this content, such as our document library, office location, expert directory, glossary, and news feeds. Also, we just want to mention that the admin section will be used when the app is live, because the content is constantly changing. So something like a news feed, you can always go into the admin section and quickly populate the information into the live app. Any of the content that is able to be edited through our admin section sits in our data sources. So it's important to understand the difference between content that can be edited in studio edit mode versus this admin section that we are now going to review. One thing we want to note is that we have 2 different types of users in this app. You'll have your regular user and then your admin user that can log in. So you can see when I look at this main menu here, I have just the general features of this app, and I don't have any access to an admin menu. All of our templates are already set up with our admin details, so you can see here we have admin@email.com and password admin. Those all sit in our user data source. So you'll see my admin credentials are already set up to allow me to edit admin parts from within the app. So if I go into my preview mode and use these login details, admin@email.com, password admin, I'm now allowed to be logged into the app as an admin. And if I go back to my main menu here, you'll see that I now have this admin menu with all these options to edit specific things in the admin section of the app. I will now go over these admin features that I just kind of overviewed with you. Again, all of our admin features are linking you to a form to enable you to update content. So if I click into, let's say, my create news feeds again, I'm going to go in here and type a new news piece, news 2022. I have categories which I can configure, say business news. It's always going to populate today's date, but you can change the date if you want. And then obviously your content, so you can copy and paste any specific content you have in here. So this is a test news feed. If there are any associated images, you can click on this choose image button, which will open your computer documents and allow you to add the specific image and tie it to this news feed. If there's any related PDFs, files, URLs, video links, we can submit all that information from here. So when I submit this, it is now saving my data. And when I go into my news feeds, you'll see that my new news piece is here. So if I head back to my main menu, I will show you a couple of other ways that we can manage content within our app. So one important thing is our user directory. If we click into this, you'll see that you have the option to add people into your app by clicking the plus button and submitting a new form with their information in it. One thing also important to point out here is where we control the admin access. So for instance, if I click into Jane Frank and edit her profile, you will see here that I have the option to make this user an app admin or not. So if I want to make them an admin, I simply select the yes button, and if not, I leave blank. So this is an easy way to populate your users into your app and also determine who is going to be an app admin. Back on our main menu, we also will review our Manage Communication screen. This allows users to send out notifications from directly in the app. So you'll see here I have a couple notifications that have already been used. If I want to create a new one, I'll use this plus button. I will click into it and type the name of the notification. So this is going to be a notification that goes out to all users. How would you like to send it? Either through email or push notification. What department do you want to select to send it to? So if you have multiple departments sitting within your organization, we can specify which department it needs to go to. To configure our email, we will put our email subject here. And we'll scroll down to this email content. So you'll see here we have these short codes that are used to populate this content and the email draft. The short handles are used to dynamically populate the email with the user's details. So for instance, if we said first name, it would pull the first name from the user's data source and make sure their name is input into this message that we're sending to them. If we scroll down again, we can see the push notification settings. So this is where we would put a title. So when the message is received on the user's phone as a push notification, what is the title that they will be seeing and what is the content that is put in there. So we then have the option, once this is all filled out, to save it and send it later, to send it as a test or send it to all users. So I'm going to go ahead and save this for later, and you'll see my notification is there. Another nice feature here is we can click in and duplicate any of the notifications that we've previously sent. So if you have a reoccurring notification that needs to go out, we can simply duplicate it and change the information that we need to. If I go back into our admin section, one of the other communication tools we have is managing our chat rooms. So if I click into this, you'll see I have the option to create a chat room. I already have one here that I have tested before. If I want to create another one, I will click on the button and put the name of my chat room. So we're going to do test chat 2. And you'll see that I have both of these chat rooms here now available for users of the app to enter this chat and talk amongst themselves. We also have the option to rename it if we want to, or delete the chat room. Heading back to our admin menu, we now have the option to import an RSS feed or RSS content. So if I click into this, you'll see the RSS URL and the source that the news will go to. So this allows you to import data from an existing RSS feed if you want to quickly populate it within your app. Just to note that this will not continuously pull data into your RSS feed and it will need to be updated. That's why we have this form to allow our admins to continuously update the content found in that particular newsfeed. So again, we would fill out the URL to our RSS feed. We would select the data source that we want it to go to. So for this instance, it's our news. We have the option to notify the users of the new content. So this will send notifications to them, and also put in some content that will go to our users once we're notifying them of the specific update. So the fifth and last section of our configuration video is going to be our publishing section. So before we publish our app to the live Apple or Google Play Store, we want to make sure we are first setting up our security rules and testing them. We want to make sure we're setting up any specific data source security, and then we will review how we launch the apps from our studio. So we will jump into that now. Since I am logged in as an admin, you'll see on my admin menu, I have the option to configure my security rules. So if I click into this screen, you'll see I have a full set of instructions on how we set up a security, and then a form that enables me to do that. So to quickly set this up, I am going to set my screens that I want to exclude from the security rule. So this is going to be my onboarding screen, my login screen, and my registration screen. So these are screens that the user can access without being logged in. If the user is not meeting these restrictions, I want to take them to the login screen. And once they have logged in, I'm going to send them to my main menu. Lastly, I want to determine how my user needs to be authenticated. I'm going to do that by our Fliplet data source, and I will submit that form. So my security has been set up. I can check that now by going into my app settings, clicking into app security, and you can see that my security rules have been applied. So I'm requiring the data source verification. I am excluding my onboarding, login, and registration, and I'm sending the user to the login screen. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Again, it's been saved through the form, and I've double checked it in the app security. So my app security settings have now been enabled. Another thing to show you in relation to app security is our data source security. So if I click into our app data, you'll see all of my existing data sources. If I click into one of these, so I'm going to click into my users, and I click into my security rules, you can see specific security rules set up for this specific data source. So if I click into this first one, I can see that I am specifying that admins can read, write, update, and delete information in this data source. So we have a full article on that reviews the correct security rules that you want to submit on these data sources, but you can add new rules here from this section, edit or delete them. So it's very important that you review all of your data sources and make sure that you have the correct level of security on all of these. So once all of our security has been set within the app, the next step that we want to make sure we are doing is fully testing the app. So you can go ahead and use our preview mode, testing all of your screens. Make sure we're testing them in our device, our tablet, and our web view. If they're going to be used across the three of them, it's important that the styling and formatting carries through. So we want to make sure we're testing. You also can use this QR code to scan and download our Fliplet viewer, which will download the app to your phone and allow you to review it in real time and get really a look and feel for how it will exist on your mobile device. So once we've done all of our testing and finalized our app and are happy with it, we then will be going into the publish section of the app, which allows you to publish your app on a selection of different channels. We have publishing by web URL, which if we select this, allows you to publish and provide you with a URL that you can share with any of your colleagues or other users to go ahead and give the app a test on the web version. You'll see the URL is populated right here, and you can go ahead and copy that and share it with anyone that you need to. We also have the option to go back in and unpublish this URL if we ever need to do that as well. The other two main publishing channels that you will be using is through Apple and through Google for Android devices. If we click into either one of these, you will see a full list of steps that are required to be completed prior to publishing. Again, there are additional support articles linked here to help you publish your app, making sure that your Apple developer account is set up and you have the correct credentials to do so. I won't go into full details, but again, in our help center, we have full articles on publishing to Apple. And Google works in a similar way, where if I click into this, again, we have some requirements that need to be filled out prior to submitting the app, which get completed in this section. Once all the details are filled out for both of these sections, you will go ahead and request the app. The build will be sent to our system, and the app will be built for you and pushed over into your Apple developer account. Or for Google, it will be built for you and available for you to download and upload into your Google Play account. This concludes our marketing template configuration video. Please feel free to reach out to one of our team members for additional questions, or use the help button to chat with live support or navigate through our help library.